Welcome to the seventh Aragon community meeting. I'm Tatu, currently the communications lead at Aragon. Today we have almost full team joining us on the community meeting, as well as a Aragon community frontline member, Aaron. Welcome, Aaron. Hi. So we're going to go through the agenda. We're first going to quickly go through the write-ups that all team members have produced from the month of December 2017. And then we're going to move over to Jorge, who will give a brief introduction to the status of the project and a brief update on community by John. And after that, we're going to go over to the AMA. So first up, I'm going to let Jorge start with the write-up section.
Cool. Thanks, Tatu. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. 2018 is the year of the Aragon. Year started with a lot of energy. But let's review last month of the year update, what the team was up to. So the first off is Alexa. She joined us in December. So please, Alexa, if you want to introduce yourself and talk a bit about your work.
Hey, yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. This is my first official community meeting, even though I kind of peeked in on other ones in the past. And so my month consisted of mostly my trial week, which was in Madrid with Luis and Jorge and Maria, which was a really great time. It was a lot of work trying to get my feet under me, understanding what I needed to do in order to kind of help operations move along. I completed my onboarding, and mostly all of December was organizing and cleaning up finances for the 2017 fiscal year reporting. So we're working with accountants from EY in Estonia, and we're working to make sure that we're fully compliant with all of the EU regulatory and financial reporting things, and also been working on payroll and expense reimbursements, and also miscellaneous dealings with crypto service providers, which just became a little more complicated this morning with the Wavecrest situation. Looking to improve communications with EY and making sure that we're transmitting our documents securely and privately, because that's a big priority for us. And also a big priority for me going forward this month is the team offsite. We're going to be having a full team offsite and all the team in person, and we'll have a really hard and fun week of getting a lot of work done, I'm sure. So that's by and large what my month was like last month and this month going forward.
Cool, that's awesome, Alexa. So happy to have you on the team. So next up is Brett. Brett.
Hi guys, happy 2018. So for December, even though I'm supposed to be an EVM/Solidity engineer, I've been mostly helping out with the front end. We're trying to get 0.0 out as fast as possible. So I've been helping on that front, and I'm sure you've seen Pierre's news. He's been doing a lot of great work, and I've been kind of helping under him. So I added a few new components, reworked a few other ones, and then started building a few apps and trying to help out with the dApp. So we've got a few of the native apps in the dApp almost ready, and then now we're working on getting the Aragon-apps like Vault, fundraising, the token manager, voting, etc. out in the next few months. I'm also trying to build the iframe loader in the wrapper so that we can load it each of these apps, each of these non-native apps. And then in the next couple of months as well, we'll be looking at connecting these app front ends to Aragon.js so that we have the whole stack working with Solidity and the EVM.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brent. It's incredible to see how the dApp has been coming together, and so much. Thanks so much for like helping there. Yeah. So next is John. I don't remember if it's his first community call or the second, but yeah, please.
I think it might actually be my third even.
Oh, wow.
But in any case, happy 2018. It's really great to be here again. Of course, the holiday break was very refreshing, but I'm super excited for what we have in store for 2018 here. So in December, at the beginning of the month, I was mostly just finishing up with onboarding, finished signing up for the different team accounts that we're using, and I also popped into a bunch of the different ecosystem community chats that Tatu has been participating in. And now I've jumped in there as well and introduced myself and shared a few updates that we've posted. I also began working on the interactive demo series that I mentioned on the last community call. The idea of this being that we will have an RSVP system that community members can use to sign up for small group demos of actually using O.5 on testnet, and creating some test organizations and kind of interacting with each other within those organizations. So right now I'm kind of blocked from finishing that until there's at least a kind of test version ready that I can use to kind of assist with creating the stories around the various scenarios that we'll be running through as part of the demo series. But I have been using some of the mock-ups and some of the documentation that's been put out so far to kind of help guide my vision for that. So I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. And I also started work on kind of the overall kind of community growth engagement plan for 2018, just to kind of think at a high level of what I want to accomplish as community lead, and all of the different parts of the community that I'll be working on. And seeking help from the community on getting these parts of the community more organized and mature as the community grows, and we're ready to take on the kind of growth that I think we're going to achieve during 2018. A quick update on the stats. The chart itself is in the team update from December that was published on the blog. It's not too exciting, but I am pleased to say that we have had very steady growth, which itself is always a good thing. We experienced 23% month-on-month growth in December, which is twice the rate of October and November. We had some months in the 20-30% month-on-month growth range earlier in the year. So that's not to say that Tatu was not doing a good job. I think he did a great job as a community lead. But that's to say that, you know, the ecosystem is growing faster. I think everybody can see that in the prices, in the activity, in the community chats and the forums, and in the physical meetups. But you know, we're definitely experiencing that here at Aragon as well, that people are joining the community at an increasing pace. And then next for this month, I'm going to finish the Aragon Interactive Demo Series planning and hopefully have a formal announcement ready to go, either right before O.5 is released or right after. I plan to finish the community growth and engagement plan for 2018. I'm going to be helping with planning some involvement in upcoming events. We'll have more details to share about those events once the details are finalized. And I'm going to be working on reviewing all of our community channels and kind of updating everything as needed. And of course, I'll be hanging out in all of those community channels. If anyone needs any help or wants to help us, happy to collaborate. Just ping me at Light on Rocket Chat or Litecoin on Reddit and Twitter.
Cool. That was an awesome month from the community standpoint, like the growth and the quality of the conversation. I mean, it's been increasing a lot. So like great job with that. So next up is me. I will be really brief. We've been working on the last touches to Aragon Core. We've been planning the next round of audits, which is it's kind of underway. We're looking at January 22nd code freeze for 0.5, which is looking good. Also, we did like some more improvements on the deployment pipeline for Aragon Core, so that's coming together very well. I spent quite a bit of time regarding the security of team members and staff that can stand more, but it's looking good. These changes are going to be deployed soon, and it's gonna be great. And like more general stuff, tons of code review, doing interviews for new candidates, especially for the Solidity/EVM position, which we are still looking for people all the time, either for like Aragon Core or like more research related stuff. So please, if you know how to Solidity, please ping us. And yeah, and the highest priority for me for this month is to like be hands down on the launch of 0.5. Help make that happen however I can. Yeah, and that's all for me. Next up is Luis, if he can.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. So I'm Luis, the project lead. So last month it was a very intense month. Basically, we're building up to launch and to making Aragon something that people can just use very soon. So the most important milestone was that I helped in the hiring process for Alexa, which it's an amazing addition to the team. So thank you for joining, Alexa. And also help making progress on the design lead position, which is another very important position. As you guys know, we take design very seriously, and it's one of the probably added values that we have in terms of when people try out Aragon, even right now. I also been working on the bonuses as well as the word structure for the core team, which is very important to just keep everyone in the same page in the core team, and also talk to some other projects that may start grant programs, because there are other projects that want to explore that. I also put more detail into the list of possible grants. As you guys know, we announced our grants program last month called Aragon Nest. So I also helped Tatu with that, and development related. I commented on multiple GitHub issues. Activity on GitHub is exploding, as Jorge and me were discussing this morning. It's just amazing. And internally, we kickstarted the migration to Flow. This is kind of a very internal thing. We were using Trello, now we're using Flow. Thanks, John, for suggesting it. And also I made a tool to automate spend reporting for team members, because there is a lot of things from a compliance perspective that we have to go through for being a foundation. And so I kind of made a tool to streamline that a little bit. We continued doing the token buyback. And also, I reviewed all the ALPs that basically Luke produced during last month, which are all amazing. They are all public in our repo in GitHub, which I think it's on our labs repo, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, and so that was kind of it. And then next month we are going to work on a lot of different stuff. But my priority is to fill a couple positions. First of all, the design lead. And secondly, also developer relations, and third, someone more on the Solid side.
Yeah, it's been a great month, and yeah, next up is Luke. Luke, we can.
Sorry to go off mute.
Yeah, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so December was a great month. The main focus was kind of doing some kind of community building around other projects. When you're doing research and you're trying to run experiments, it's helpful to have multiple input sources from multiple projects. So I spent a lot of time talking with other groups. And we're going to be kicking off a working group related to building compatible implementations of token curated registries and liquid democracy. So I'm really, really excited about that. I also created the labs repo that Luis just mentioned and put in a number of proposals. This is sort of a new process that is kind of a work in progress, but the idea is to create kind of governance primitives as like atomic little things that we can look at, collect feedback, test, and sort of track them, almost like the Ethereum improvement process, where like there's community involvement, there's testing, there's developers and other groups that all have input. And I think this will allow us to really like explore some of the more sophisticated governance models and kind of build them up like blocks. So that's really exciting. I also participated in a number of like kind of community calls. I had the post on governance and was on a few recorded calls. So that's linked in the blog post if anybody missed those and wants to like listen to some interesting conversations around governance. So the next steps that I'm going to be focused on this month is actually doing the kickoff for those working groups. Hopefully we'll have a more official announcement soon. I want to work on getting more community involvement and engagements in the labs process. So rather than just submitting proposals and having Luis review them and others on the team, getting more people in our community outside of the core team involved in that process. And then continuing ongoing research efforts in general, and hopefully experiment with some signaling with token holders as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. The amount of progress that we're making on that end, it's just awesome. Cool. So now it's turn to Maria, who couldn't join us today. So I'm gonna try to summarize her as well as I can. So on strategy, she worked a lot on Aragon Nest. We've been having the initial conversations with potential grantees, and that's looking amazing. And also like working a lot with Alexa on like operations and kicking off the like helping onboard her. I kept it really brief because she's not here. The next what Maria will be working on next is like do more of her Aragon Nest, launch the first grants, and also like have a more formal application process, and also like kind of some legal work, especially regarding trademark policy and registration and open source licenses and stuff. So yeah, that's all. So yeah, next up is Oliver, senior glue at Aragon. So
thanks. So in December, I finished transaction pathing in Aragon OS, and the Aragon OS document is referred to as permission escalation. I started work on splitting Node Aragon into two parts, one for the app developer and one for pretty much only us, but other people could use it as well. for the wrapper part, which is the dApp, the shell around the apps. After it's a split, it's going to be named to Aragon.js. I mean, it's not important why it's renamed. We're just gonna do it. I finished the refactor of Aragon Dev CLI. So this is the tool that people will use to bootstrap new apps from templates and publish them to Aragon package repositories. There's like the refactor includes like new UX, new commands, better configuration, better error reporting. Hopefully it will be more stable as well. There's a bit of work left on that, but not much. Then like other than that, I did some small patches, some code review, every like day-to-day stuff that all the dev team members do. I published the initial version of what we call RadSpec. It's basically NatSpec, but more secure and a bit more powerful. So for those of you who don't know NatSpec, it's a way to describe transactions in a human-readable way, which is super important for Aragon because we put a lot of emphasis on UX. So that's almost done. The initial version that I have published now does work, but there's a few missing things that would be nice to have. So I'm gonna work on that. And then I did an initial prototype of like governance layers on top of Aragon package repositories. So next up is, as I mentioned, finishing RadSpec, doing tests for transaction pathing, which turns out to be sort of hard, actually. And then the initial release of Node Aragon, so you can start using it and building apps or at least tinkering with it.
Yeah, that's also some great work. Like RadSpec is like it's so rad. So yeah, like also like coming up with launch, it's going to be great. Cool. So next up is Pierre.
Hey. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So yeah, for me this month I've been working a lot on Aragon with Brett on the front end side of things. So we've been working on a new front end structure for the entire app, which is now based on Aragon UI. So we now have this base structure, which consists of the sidebar and the home screen and the base needed to wrap the other Aragon apps inside. Yeah, to support this, I was also working on implementing or improving components for Aragon UI. So the two components I added this last month were batch number, which is just something to display the number of updates that we have on the screen, and circle graph, which is something that you can see on the home screen. I've also published a blog post where you can see these new components and the status of the app. And it's a blog post just giving an update on everything that has been done these last months on everything UI related at Aragon. For the next months, I'm going to implement more apps now for the new Aragon wrapper. So yeah, starting with the voting app, token manager, groups, and Vault.
Awesome! Like the UI is coming out so well. Amazing work. And yeah, the last one, I think it's Tatu. Yeah, please.
Yes. Okay, so I'm Tatu, the communications lead, and on December I was working quite a bit on the wiki because it's a major source of information about Aragon, and we try to keep most of our information focused on that one point. So quite a bit of updates, creating new issues for people to contribute. We're always looking for contributors to our GitHub repositories, including the wiki. Then I reviewed some pull requests. For blog posts, I did 3 team interviews, one with John, one with Brett, and one with Alexa. And then I wrote the Introduction Aragon Nest blog post where we initially announced the program, and we'll be doing more posts about that later this year. Then I also provided some feedback and helped Luke and Pierre with their blog posts and reviewed those. I did a few things with John to get him more up to speed on his new role. A couple of guides and the list of community chats that I've been a part, as he mentioned. And then I continued our discussion with the Rocket Chat team on Crypto Communities project that they're doing. And yeah, next I'll be doing more wiki and blog post stuff. We have the new monthly newsletter, which you can subscribe to at aragon.one website at the full bottom of the page. And I'll get really working on the overall communication strategy and preparing communications for the upcoming releases, mainly 0.5. And that's most of it for me. And as we're now through the write-ups, we kind of decided on switching the agenda a bit. So we didn't just take questions and discuss the write-ups. We actually went and went through them all. So we're going to skip the introduction by Jorge and John, as they pretty much took care of it during the write-ups, and go straight to the AMA section of the meeting. So the AMA is Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything, and we will take questions from the Aragon project subreddit where the AMA thread is posted. So starting with those, this first question is by DinaGuy666. Many people still don't have a solid idea of what Aragon can do. Can you give us some real-life use cases to make the power of Aragon clearer? Who would be willing to answer this?
I can take that, or just give my point of view, because I think that there are many use cases. But
sorry, Luis, your volume is really low. Can you speak up a bit?
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think one of the most important use cases is in countries where people cannot interact with each other, and think about Venezuela or think of other countries, that they are able to transact as if they were, first world citizens, because the things that you can make or you cannot make shouldn't be determined by your passport, for example. So think of these things that you cannot do because you're a Venezuelan. With Aragon, you can do them, and you can interact, and you can fundraise, and you can, spread out the word about your project, whatever, without any sort of borders. You could be like a, 12-year-old like open source contributor, and create a DAO and transact with people from all over the world and charge your consulting services the same as you could do if you are a 25-year-old American, and it would be exactly the same thing. So that's one of the use cases that I'm more excited about, use developing countries.
Can I add my thoughts as well?
Yeah.
The major use case, and I think a huge value proposition, at least for me, is the idea that you'll have sort of a single set of expectations globally. So whether you're in the United States or in Europe or in South America, if you want to collaborate with other people on a project or on a business, it's really difficult now to understand the different legal situations in different countries, what you can expect when you sign a contract with somebody, how things are going to be enforced. Having like a neutral digital jurisdiction where everybody can kind of collaborate globally is going to be really, really valuable as more and more of like the economy shifts to like digital exchanges.
Thanks, Luke. Anyone else have anything to add? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the next question. This question is posted by John, and it's a question that has originated from the Aragon chat. It looks like the release dates in the development plan are out of date. When will they be updated? Well, I can answer this. This is something that me and Jorge and Luisa should discuss and update those accordingly. The actual current development plan can be found in the wiki, and it's out of date now. Jorge, you want to add something?
Yeah. So basically, the reason why they keep going like it keeps being delayed, it's not because like there's not people working on this or like whatever. It's just that while we were building Aragon, we thought we needed to build some stuff, and it turned out that we needed to build that stuff squared. We've had to build our own package manager for the App Store. We've had to build our own basic identity system for Ethereum because there's not one out there. We've had to build like our own transaction description thingy because like there's nothing good out there, and people just click accept on MetaMask and sign whatever the application prompts them to do. And those are things that if we don't have, we don't feel like, I personally don't think comfortable launching Aragon to the world and like just have people randomly click accept for actions or a lot of stuff like this. So that's the reason why it has been delayed. So when we will update the dates in development plan, it will probably happen when after the 0.5 launch, after the release, we sit down and reevaluate the development plan entirely and the next releases. So that will happen probably around February. But yeah, that's the estimation that we can give. 0.5 is well underway. Like the progress has been amazing this past months, and it will be ready soon. I mean, it will be ready when it's ready, but we think this moment looks sooner and sooner. So yeah, I expect an update soon on that. And regarding the rest of the development plan, after that, which is our main focus right now, is done, that will allow us to like think a little bit more long term and kind of try to plan the next releases with a little bit more certainty. Yeah.
I also have to add that, like as Jorge said in the beginning, something kind of very basic, and then we think about Aragon OS, about different architectures that are really future-proof, and so that made us do a lot of things in terms of the roadmap. But that's also very positive because, for example, right now we're implementing a lot of stuff that we have, in the roadmap for future versions during this year. But we already have it because we have reworked so much on the ground that, we are advancing a lot of stuff. So probably more than delayed, I would say that we are kind of changing some priorities. But definitely we are making so much progress at the Aragon OS level and just having the client ready that we are going to save so much work in the future, but making it very future-proof now.
Yeah, and also kind of like for a bit of reference about this, kind of when we did the original development plan and like after this 0.3 release, which is the client that one can download right now, Aragon was much more oriented to like running a traditional startup or like the typical startup. So that was what we were working to. And when we said that 0.5 would be available this date, we were thinking about a better version of running for startups. Since that moment, we've like broadened the scope of what we want Aragon to do and the vision so much that it's kind of like changed a lot. And kind of like as a reference, the current smart contract code for 0.3 has been completely rewritten, but like not once, twice. There's no one line of code in the current contracts that was in 0.3, and there isn't one line of code right now that was in 0.4. So this is kind of why things are taking so long. But I think it will be completely worth it.
Yeah, and like related to this whole issue with the Aragon OS and all the changes in the scheduling and everything, also what has come up is that the white paper is actually pretty outdated. With these new updates on everything, we probably need to create another white paper as well in the future with these updates, because these have been such a major changes that we can't just like put them under small changes, but actually reflect those more in the actual documentation.
Yeah, totally. The new white paper is something that we will work on the first half of 2018. We almost know what we want it to be, but we will work on this a lot. And after we have a draft, we'll start sharing that with the community and like have probably like a community vote to change from like one white paper to another or whatever. But yeah, there will be a new great white paper.
Okay, moving on to the next question. This is also from the subreddit AMA thread. Knowledge Greets AI asks, first off, huge fan of your vision and everything being built out. So creating unstoppable organizations also entails creating economically sustainable organizations. Fundraising/token sales aside, what other tools do you see decentralized organizations needing to create and capture value? In other words, how do you see Aragon supporting new and emerging decentralized business plans? Who wants to answer this one?
I guess I can be the fallback, but if anyone wants to take it, feel free. 3, 2,
yeah.
So I think one of the examples that Luis gave earlier is a pretty good example of this. So, I mean, DAOs can be a unique form of organization, enabling new kinds of human collaboration that didn't exist before. They can also be a new kind of entity that would kind of take the place of a traditional legal entity if you wanted to like set up an LLC or something like that. And so on the one hand, you might have a kid in Latin America that wouldn't be able to create a company otherwise, basically setting up a DAO and basically invoicing customers and treating it almost like as if it were an LLC or the equivalent in their country, and then hiring either contractors or employees or however they want to define their relationship later, and running it almost like a traditional organization. And in that case, the business model would just be very similar to a traditional organization. You're a business, you develop a product or provide a service, and you get paid for that product or service. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's going to be kind of the totally new business models that are enabled by totally new kinds of organization and the crypto economics that come along with smart contracts and tokens. I think that Aragon itself would be a good example of this. Because Aragon is going to be operating as a DAO, and Aragon is going to be creating some new kind of business models based around crypto economics and various forms of token-based governance, including some interesting things, possibly like token curated registries, staking for those registries, as well as staking for various other kinds of services, such as like the decentralized jurisdiction that has been discussed and the decentralized court system. And so the DAO could earn revenues by providing these services and have service providers who are members of the DAO provide services to customers who pay for those services and have the funds flow back through the DAO and to the service providers and token holders who are kind of supporting the DAO with governance and other kinds of services. So I would say right now it's kind of too early to perhaps get more specific than that. Also because this is a powerful new decentralized technology that is going to enable emerging complex adaptive systems that are just unpredictable, really, to tell where they're going to go, because there are so many different combinations and configurations and new possibilities that are made possible by this set of smart contracts that's being developed. So those are some examples that come to the top of my head, but I just want to emphasize that like it's very early in the game, and there's a lot that I think is going to happen that we just can't even predict right now, because the person who is going to think of those ideas just hasn't come up with them yet.
All right. If there's anyone else who wants to answer this, Jorge?
No, I was gonna say that it would be good for Aaron, like if he has any question, and we're actually going to have like another community guest, which is Griff, that will join now. But Aaron, do you have any questions that you want to ask or something you want to say?
Yeah. So you actually posted the question already in the subreddit, so I'm gonna let you ask that one. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hi, Griff. All right, Aaron, are you still there? Okay, again.
The organization. What do you see the initial scope of the community's role in governance and decision making? Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I didn't catch the whole question there. I just heard governance.
Yeah, so I'm gonna repeat the question. As we transition to a community organization, what will be the initial scope of community decision making?
Yeah, so I think what will end up happening is we'll gradually roll out more and more authority to token holders. Initially, it may be signaling. So like signaling for GitHub issues, for governance proposals, but more and more decisions will get handed over to token holders, and eventually, like the constitution that really like defines what the Aragon network jurisdiction is will be entirely decided by like ANT holders.
So, Aaron, are you there? I think there's at least a delay. Okay, there's nothing.
Yeah, the connection is a bit spotty.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Luke, for answering that. Welcome, Griff.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hi. Hey. So if someone doesn't know, Griff Green from Giveth.
Yeah. I actually have a question for you guys, because Giveth just kind of launched live, or we started to launch live on the mainnet and realized it actually made no sense. And we're backtracking right now because, yeah, exactly. Jorge, dude, there's no better words than the nuclear bomb that is right now. You talk to any exchange or anyone who's actually trying to run nodes, oh, they're all dying. Uncle rate is off the charts. And just sending Ether around costs 60 cents a pop. If you want to do any on-chain transactions that are more complicated than that, like even multi-sig, we're talking $5, $6. Do you guys have any plans or any strategies for getting off of the mainnet and moving to a side chain, or any potential solutions like that? Or what are your thoughts on these issues?
That's a really good question.
The problem is that it doesn't have a really good answer. It's whenever there's some weird activity in the mainnet, like call it CryptoKitties or Ether going to like 1,000, like it becomes like impossible to use. And this is actually a very bad problem. Like when we start having like high stake systems live, like we cannot like not be running votings in our organization because someone decided to launch again. That's quite bad. We're looking at every possible solution out there, but there's no solution that seems mature to like do anything. Like there was this article, this idea about like trusted proxy something that Alex from Grid Plus published, which looks good to like move a lot of computation to a sidechain and even like send assets, like send Aragon tokens to like a sidechain in an almost trustless way. But that still requires a lot of trust. So that doesn't work. So this is it's bad. It's bad. I mean, progress on Sardine is like improving a lot. Like there's a really starting to be a lot of progress, but that might be still like at least 6 months away, I would say. I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah, like for at least Ethereum has kind of a plan this. So the question kind of is the mainnet mature enough for a mainnet? And the question is, answer is kind of no. Like the actual mainnet can compute a certain amount of transactions or calls or messages actually, but it will require the actual mainnet to mature enough to proof of stake and all these extra solutions. Oliver, you want to comment?
Yeah, I saw some suggestions in the YouTube chat. One of them is Raiden. Raiden is for value transfers only, so that would work. And Ethereum Classic is, is basically just making the problem, like moving it to another chain. The issue will still persist. But yeah, we talked to the Parity guys about Polkadot. I'm super excited for Polkadot at least, but there's no way to know for sure. I think it's a race against time, pretty much, because 2018 is probably going to be the year where a lot of projects launch, and if mainnet is the only thing we have, then it's not going to work. So I think Sharding or Polkadot, whatever comes first, I think is pretty much the answer at this moment, but we're actively looking into solutions.
I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is that a lot of what we're working on can be tested in like non-mainnet environments. So like if we're working on governance and we're working on voting and we're working on a lot of these like primitive mechanisms, that doesn't necessarily need to be sending real Ether around to make sure that it's working. So it's not necessarily a gating factor, but launching on mainnet might be very expensive for organizations initially while there's a lot of network congestion.
Yeah. Yeah, also, I mean, it depends on the use case. There are use cases that we are going to have to kind of keep away until scalability is resolved. But there are definitely use cases which are like very high stake. Matter if you have to pay $100 in gas, really. But it's going to be a problem to be restricted to those use cases, at least until we have some scalability solution.
Absolutely. Griff, do you want to comment more on this besides?
Yeah, so what I would say is that I really like the solution that Parity has taken with Kovan, where they kind of brought almost. but where they brought a bunch of trusted people together to form a testnet that they could work on. And I also am looking at what RSK has been doing on Bitcoin. They currently have a federated peg. I believe it works. I haven't seen it work with my own eyes on the blockchain, right? But there could be some kind of middle road while we wait for these sharding solutions, because I am looking to maintain a decent, I'm ready. I want to continue working on these projects like it will work on the mainnet, and continue testing Solidity stuff. And not everything can be tested on testnets. Sometimes you do need economic value in play. And so I think that trying to peg make a sidechain for maybe a group of projects, kind of like Kovan did, but actually adding it, trying to peg it to the mainnet through a federated chain where you have a multi-sig that receives money, and then smart contracts that can read that multi-sig through, well, smart contracts on the testnet. And then you have just trusted nodes, like a proof of authority kind of trusted nodes that can verify that something happened in the mainnet, and then that creates value on the testnet, something along those lines. And right now, after this meeting, we're about to have a Giveth meeting where we're going to talk about just starting off with creating this on a testnet, either Rinkeby or Kovan, and at least starting that process. And if we start out on testnet, the nice thing is that it already has a block explorer and a lot of functionality. We don't have to set up the network. And then eventually, a lot of the things we would need to build if we start with a private network, we build for the testnet, and then we move forward. So I just am throwing that out there with you guys. Maybe it's something we could collaborate on, or also if you guys have a better idea, because we don't have a legal entity, so we have to pay people through the blockchain, and we would like to do it through smart contracts, but that's our situation.
Yeah, I think like along those lines could be deferred, like a short-term solution, something that we could deploy like in a month, and that could maybe work with like having a POA, proof of authority chain that is kind of bridged for value with the mainnet. I just shared the link in the call chat and also in the YouTube chat about this article about Alex from Grid Plus and their thoughts on that. It's almost a prototype. To my taste, it requires a lot of trust in the kind of bridge operators or whatever you want to call them. But I think we can come up with a group of trusted entities that won't screw people over. Like the main issue with this is, what if the proof of authority chain stops finalizing blocks? Then it wouldn't be possible to like take the assets from that chain and put them in the mainnet again. And then you also need to like trust some entity that kind of says, okay, I've seen this log in this chain, and kind of like to forward that and relay that to the other chain. So there's some trust needed, but I feel like we can come up with a group of trusted companies and people in the community to like maybe this could work. But I agree, we need a solution yesterday. I'm praying to Lord Vitalik isn't being as quick as we would like it to be. So,
someone
so we have a question for Griff from the live chat. Griff, do you know any other project working or willing to create something like this?
Well, you guys are the first people I've reached out to, but I really don't think I agree with Jorge that we could easily form a coalition. I see a lot of projects that are close to launching that need a solution, and I basically any project that is close to launching would be interested in this. So.
Can we call it Ethereum Solution Alliance?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So another question from the chat is, Ethereum Classic overcomes congestion while maintaining functionality? No. So the question is exactly that. No. It might overcome congestion like in the short term, but if everyone moves to Ethereum Classic, then you have congestion again. They don't have any like scalability solutions implemented. There's a lot of drama in Ethereum Classic as well, so I wouldn't be comfortable deploying anything on their chain either. So it wouldn't really solve the issue. It would just delay it, except now that now everyone like needs to use Ethereum Classic, which is just a weird hurdle to overcome. So it doesn't solve anything. It actually pretty much only like creates more issues.
I mean, there's no congestion in ETC because no one uses ETC. That's the only thing.
Also, I don't believe that there's a block explorer that will allow you to see internal transactions on ETC.
Yeah. Anyone else have
this I didn't catch it if it was mentioned. I think it was briefly mentioned in the chat here, but so Rootstock has been working on an EVM sidechain to Bitcoin, and it's taken them like, I don't know, a couple of years now of development to like get it going. Have you considered, you know, if the question is kind of time to market, or you know how quickly you can kind of get this thing up and running in a way that's kind of safe to use? Have you considered piggybacking off of their work and either forking their code or even just using their network?
Very much so, except their network doesn't.
They claim to. Sorry to interrupt. Just to provide some context, they claim to support up to like 1,000 or 10,000 transactions per second or something like that. So just kind of throwing that out there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's seen that like actually functional so far.
Their design on the federated peg is what is most interesting to me. Although I still think that I'm not a blockchain maximalist in any sense of the word. I think that if RSK, ETC, or NEO, or any of these guys get going really strongly, then we can, develop our dApp for their currency, for their platform as well. Just like if I develop an app on iPhone, I also develop it for Android and Windows Phone if it's big enough. I don't see that as a problem. I definitely like piggybacking off of anybody's work. That's the magic of open source.
Yeah, I agree on that, but it's also very important that the chain has like some security guarantees. Otherwise, we could like have a MongoDB and be done with it. Like that scales really well.
Truth.
Okay, well, if no one has anything else on this subject, I want to say thank you, Griff, for the excellent question and commentary on this.
Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having this beautiful meeting. I actually have to start to give it to me.
I'm really tired.
So thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks, Griff, for joining in. I'm going to move over to the next questions because we still have questions to go through, and we're almost at a 1 hour mark now. So Happy New Year, guys. As an ANT holder, what functionality I should expect in this quarter? Thank you. For me, I'd just say that functionality from Aragon will come in the form of version 0.5 alpha. Functionality in terms of the Aragon network token is still further ahead, waiting on the 0.7 or so, depending on how the development plan gets updated when the Aragon network is actually launched. So anyone else want to chime in on this?
I'd like to see signaling using the ANT token happen very soon. So that's kind of the first step to like simulating governance off chain, and we can do a lot of experiments there that'll like lead into the actual network release.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. The signaling or voting being one of those key things. So next question, is there a timeline and price target guidance for the token buyback program using the hundreds of millions of Ether? Is Luis still here? And Maria isn't.
I think it's in the lower left.
Yeah. But Jorge, can you take this?
Yeah, I can take it. Luis is running out of battery and his connection is spotty, so he might drop off at the moment. So yeah, no, there's nothing like that. We of course are taking like every time certain buyback is done. It's we're all, of course, accounting for that, and it can be followed on chain because like Ether's coming out of the foundation multisig and tokens are coming into the foundation multisig, so it can easily be followed. I don't think we've done one in a while, but there's like there's no specific formula that we follow, and we don't intend for this to be like a long-term thing. The buyback program, it's like happening now because we felt like we needed a bit more ANT for incentivizing the use of Aragon and the growth of the network and partners and all that. But this is not something that we have ever guaranteed that we would buy ANT. We're just doing it because we felt like we needed to, but this doesn't give like, we weren't promising that we will buy X amount of ANT from the market at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There was perhaps, if I remember correctly, it was single buyback in December, but we'll have the Aragon Transparency Q4 report and the Aragon Development Q4 update probably around next week. So look for more information in the blog there. Moving on to the next question, I'm gonna forward this to Luke. Have you guys heard Naval Unchained podcast? He made really good points regarding governance.
Which podcast?
I guess it's Naval's Unchained.
I have not, but I'll check it out.
Cool. Anyone else?
Is there a link in the comments?
No, but let's see if Deepa Kathari could post a link there. Anyone else familiar with this podcast? Okay.
No, but I just found a link, so I'm pasting that on YouTube and everywhere. But
cool.
It sounds so interesting.
Cool. Okay, this next question is for Jorge. So, what sort of things could a new person do to start getting involved in Aragon development?
This is an awesome question, and I was gonna talk about that during the write-ups. We have started doing these bounty programs using Status Open Bounty. So idea is we might put a special tag in GitHub issues that's a bounty tag and then send some ANT there. So whoever does a pull request that can close that issue, that you can get a bounty in Aragon tokens. We did an experiment this week with some Spanish translations of documents, important documents in the wiki. And like the result of the experiment has been amazing. We just like put 3 bounties for 3 issues and they got done in like 3 days, which was great. So now we have like most of the documentation about Aragon OS and about all Aragon apps is now translated into Spanish. So we are now doing an effort to have bounties in more repos, especially like development repos. When we do that, we will post it always in the dev channel in RocketSat. There are some issues in Node Aragon that already have the bounty tag that Oliver can share in the dev channel. So that's kind of a good idea for kind of getting started and like looking at the repos and what we're doing. But if someone is interested about the work we do, like we always have open positions for talented devs. So just shoot us an email to hiring@aragon.one, and we will happily read that, and we would love to have you.
And we're actually hiring for a developer relations. So if you're passionate about the topic that we're just discussing, which is how to get more people interested in decentralization, interested in developing for Aragon, please go to our wiki, which is wiki.aragon.one, and then there we have the developer relations, which is a position we are hiring right now for.
Yeah, you can always.
I would also add.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
I would also add that if you wanted to, you could also try to start using some of the tools that we're building. I'd like to give a shout out to Renex, or maybe Renee, who's been very active on the Rocket Chat about using it and providing tons of feedback. So if you're just looking to get your feet wet or something and try and build an Aragon app, even though it's not necessarily ready and we don't have tutorials and a really good developer experience, there is a lot of ground for you to either help us provide that or just giving feedback as to what it's currently looking like.
Yeah, we're always looking for new contributors, as Jorge said, and the bounty program has been really great so far, and we'll definitely continue on that. So next question is, I own a company called Hippie Butter and would love to use Aragon and ICO to raise funds, but I'm having a hard time finding information. Any tips? Well, I would suggest to start by going to the website at aragon.one, then looking through the wiki.aragon.one, and if there's information that you can find and would like to, ask us, join us at aragon.chat. So we're always there, and feel free to ask any questions from us all there as well. Anyone want to add anything to this?
And talk to a lawyer. Yeah, talk to your lawyer.
Yeah, we don't give out any legal advice. Okay, the question one of them was already answered, so let's ask Aaron's next question. Unfortunately, Aaron dropped out due to connectivity issues. So what governance model will Aragon Network use itself? We don't know, because that's kind of the point of why especially Luke is working on these different governance models. Luke, you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I know in the white paper, it references liquid democracy specifically, and that's one of the things that we're researching now, and that has a lot of great properties. But ultimately, we still need to do more tests, more experimentation, gather data before we're ready. And it could be something that changes over time. If you start with one governance model that doesn't include the network from using that governance model to upgrade itself to some other model. Or some other changes.
Yes. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Well, I guess this question is more for the chat, but where is Rocket Chat? So for us, Aragon Chat can be found at aragon.chat. For Rocket Chat, it's rocket.chat. And it's also a open source messaging platform. So you can also find a lot of their stuff in GitHub. I guess that's all the questions we have for now, unless someone wants to ask something from the live chat or. Well, again, I guess we're going to wrap this up this time. Thank you to all our guests, Aaron and Griff, and all the people in the live chat discussing and asking questions, as well as everyone asking questions at the AMA thread. We'll post these AMA threads in the future, like about 10 to 12 days before the actual meeting. The next Aragon community meeting is going to be on the first Friday of February. So please do ask us questions and come chat with us again then.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for participating.
Awesome call. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.